This is Sharon with Entelechy Visions, and this is an energy update for the week of October 21st through October 27th. So we are nearing the end of October, and we have entered the pre-shadow phase of a Mercury retrograde, which is coming up pretty soon. What does a pre-shadow phase mean? It means that the planet is starting to go into its shadow phase for the preparation for that retrograde cycle. And so the pre-shadow phase can bring up a lot of emotions, kind of like stirring the pot a little as it's preparing for that actual phase of the retrograde. So you may have found that even over the course of last week, as it already went into that shadow, and then into this week, that some suppressed emotions were maybe bubbling up to the surface. Things that maybe you had stuffed down, things that maybe have been with you for the bulk of this year, for that matter, that you've just kind of pushed down and tucked away and have not really tended to. And so these are bubbling up now so that you can finally look at them and heal them. Because even though we go through great transformation, it's really truly not until we feel like we have a pause in that transformation that the emotions that are spawned from that growth or all those changes finally we're able to look at and see. Because when you're walking through a fire, you're really focused on the fire in your face itself. You're not so much focused on maybe how you're feeling about all of that. You're just trying to survive through that shift. So metaphorically, the emotions may be arising now of all that you've been through over the course of this year, and how much you have pulled yourself through, how much you have had the courage, the strength, the guts to really face and transform. And so these emotions may be coming up right now because they're getting ready to shift at the end of this month, and they're really getting ready to release and allow yourself to have a little bit of a revival on an emotional level. So the retrograde period begins on the 31st of this month, so right on Halloween, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next update. But the end of this week, we have a Scorpio new moon, which is on the 27th into the 28th, just depending on where you are in the world. And Scorpio is the sign of the underworld. So the themes of the underworld may be popping up as well around this new moon, because we are entering Scorpio season this week. And these are the signs and themes of death, rebirth, transformation, sex, and hidden secrets. So you may find that kind of popping up in your life in different ways, but then also on a collective level, maybe some hidden secrets coming out into the open that shift things that needed to be seen in some way. So with this new moon, it is spawning this rebirth of a part of ourselves, that we are ready to really let a clean slate happen with our emotions. And because Scorpio is diving deep into an emotional level, and also with this season of the underworld and the retrograde about to happen, our emotions may be stirring quite a bit, but all for good reason. That we're trying to dredge up any remaining issues that we may have stuffed down, that we may have kind of tied neatly with a bow and wrapped it up in a package and put it away for later, telling ourselves that we would deal with that another time, or that maybe the fullness of our emotional expression hasn't been truly felt to the depths of what we need. That we can be so busy in our lives and we can be going nonstop that when we're actually feeling something, it's rare that we tend to it, that we really dive fully into an emotional process and we let ourselves feel to the greatest extent of what we're feeling and what's coming up for us. So the majority of us can really take emotional processes that come up and we can kind of stuff them down, tidy them away, save them for another day when we have the space or it's safe or we feel comfortable, nurtured, or heard to let that out. However, it can pile up like layers on top of one another. And maybe at the root of some of that emotion is a sense of hurt or sadness or loneliness. And then on top of that, maybe some anger because we're feeling sad, because we're feeling some need unmet. And then on top of the anger, maybe some fear because we are not feeling engaged with ourselves in all of these many different ways and layers. So when we really truly open up what's going on, you may find a wealth of things that are actually occurring for you. A wealth of experiences and processes that really want to emerge and be expressed. So when we take the time and we allow ourselves that space, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the presence of another person, that we can really go within in our own inner silence and just face these emotions, to really sit with ourselves and just tune in and see, what am I really feeling? And what is this emotion of anger maybe that's lying on the surface? And where is this anger leading to? Is this anger rooted in sadness or hurt? Is that sadness or hurt rooted in loneliness, frustration, fear? And I know these are very tender emotions and not really fun places to go. But the moment that we shine a light and we really sit and allow some attention to these parts of ourselves that we haven't given space or we've maybe neglected and tucked away for another day, then we start to pry open the process to begin, to really look at it and say, okay, this is actually what I've been feeling, and this is where it's coming from. And then seeing these different layers can lead you down the path of, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like I need to tuck this away? Why do I not feel safe to allow this out and have its fullest expression? And where in my life do I feel like there's certain aspects that are unmet to cause me to feel in these ways? So it's a good period to really look at all of these layers. And I know we want to just have this ecstasy and bliss and pleasure and contentment and to kind of live in that positivity. But this time of year is really good to do some of that shadow work. And I know the bulk of 2019 has been that, for the most part, for many, that we've gone under these great, great transformations and kind of looked at the shadow at every single angle. But if we're still here on planet Earth. We're still part of this evolution of consciousness and this awakening. And then there's still work to be done. There's always some kind of layer of healing. And so doing more of that at this time to really dive into and see, what can I help to shift by giving it more of my love and focus? So this period of time is going to allow some of that. And if you spend the time to really gift yourself that, you can help to shift to that sense of rebirth, to that sense of wiping the slate clean of your own mental state, of your own heart space, because that's where we can really hold a lot of our stuff. When our mind is running on chatter and it's just in this hamster wheel, or our heart feels heavy with something that's unspoken or untended to, when we really gift ourselves that, then we can help to shift that weight from our lives, and ultimately it will lead more to that lightness, to that positivity, to that state of joy, bliss, and contentment. And how do we do that? How do we look at these parts of ourselves? What's the best way to really face these aspects? Is just by being with it, just by going within. Even if you just sit with yourself in silence and tap into what your body is feeling on any given moment, on any given day, when it begins to arise in you and you're feeling some of that emotional suppression that is bubbling up, just tap into it and begin to look at it and see the story that it's telling you. See the little intuitive nudges that are behind the story of these emotions. And these intuitive nudges are linked to your higher self and what's being called for healing at this time. So we do have a powerful last week of this month. And some of the energy that may be arising at this time may be a little bit more potent, more aggressive. So just be mindful of that and kind of choose your words wisely when you're interacting with others, when you're getting ready to speak something, to share an opinion, to voice something, just to kind of do a self-check before you let something out. And ask yourself, is this kind? Is this necessary? And that's a good way to see if this is appropriate for any given situation, as these energies can be a little bit erratic. There could potentially also be some solar activity surrounding this new moon around that 27th, 28th. So our sensitivities can be very heightened. So just do a lot of self-care around that time. You could be feeling some of those solar activity symptoms, ascension symptoms around that time. And the veils are also very thin, which happens around this time of year anyway, around that Halloween season. So your intuition may be very heightened also, which is a gift, kind of tapping in to the different messages and inspirations and creativity that you're getting. So you can use this time as an opportunity to also create amazing things, to really get those visions, get those messages that are being shown to you around this time. So tuning into your own intuitive sense and then channeling it into something healthy, whether that's creating with a hobby that you like, whether that is playing music, dancing, making art, journaling, writing, any kind of thing. This is a really good time to go within and use that creative energy for your benefit. And that can really help to move some of that emotion that's coming up as well. Because anytime emotion comes up, it's a good thing to shift it and channel it productively at times. That art is very healing. And you don't have to be an artist to channel that energy. That everyone has that ability to create something. So whatever it is for you, it could be cooking, it could be knitting, anything that is creative in some sense, that you can channel that and use whatever's bubbling up for you. And if it's a difficult emotion, just kind of shift that and use the power and passion of what's arising for you to channel it into a productive and healthy outlet. I hope you have a lovely week, and if you need additional support, you can reach me at entelekivisions.com, as I offer remote sessions by phone or in-person sessions in Arizona. Have a lovely week, and thank you for listening.